risk level attribution model. This is going to be based on ordinal ranking of a consolidated risk value. I'll talk about the pros and cons of using something of that kind. All right, so just as an FYI, there is an international standard out there that's saying that using single consolidated values can risk losing information, can be inaccurate, can be potentially misleading, and all these things are true. It does stress that this same standard stresses that we support this model by scenario analysis and stress testing. So I'm in total agreement with that. Just opening disclaimer. Okay, so we get a lot of customer complaints over time. How do we prioritize them? And how do we operate in a way that makes sure that we're working as fast as possible on the highest risk tickets? So TOES is based on these four factors: time unresolved, occurrence, escalation, and severity. And together, these form a consolidated risk score. So these are just some examples of how we might go ahead and weight the different factors. Time unresolved is an important one because if you are having a lot of tickets hang out there for an extended period of time, you're risking losing the confidence of the customers that you're looking to provide closure with on their outstanding complaints. And so, having time unresolved as a factor will be pushing complaints from the bottom that are very low risk up to the top as soon as they reach their maximum number of days out. So in this case, you can see I've assigned weight based on the percentage of time that's elapsed compared to when the absolute due date is necessary. Next is occurrence. If something happens a lot, it means that it's higher risk because it could be consuming the oxygen of your team dealing with the same complaint over and over again. So rate of occurrence is certainly an important factor. Now, escalation is the one place where it might not be automated. This is where you have an opportunity to intercede and go ahead and escalate a ticket. Now, there can be a variety of roles out there that can escalate a ticket, either a lot or a little. So you can break that up as well to change the score. And lastly is severity. And this is also something that can be automated, but with some risk. So here you can see I've proposed some ways of breaking it up. And I've assigned weight to a variety of keywords. Now, the risk of that is that someone presents a new thing that's extremely severe, for which there's no keyword. So that's definitely a weakness in this model and something that had to be addressed. Okay, so in this case, if you take the maximum score for each individual factor, we're looking at a max score of 50 points. So here you can see the ordinal ranking of risk scores based on data that I was given from another business. And, we have two really high ones here, the highest ones. One is shopper bringing along others, having others shop for them. Doesn't seem like a really terrible thing, right? And then the next one is violence and aggression, substantiated and account deactivated. Well, that sounds much worse. So how can these two scores have the same? How can these two issues have the same score? Well, if you look at the rate of occurrence, that factor played a large role. So it looks like issue number 1 occurred 40 times more than issue number 2, which consumed over 11,000 hours over a 7-month period. So pretty significant. Here I illustrated the statistical significance. So when compared to issue number 2, issue number 1 happened 2.5 standard deviations above the mean, while the other one was well below the mean. Okay, so now how do we assign a risk level? So here you can see I break it up into quartiles. Obviously, you're going to always have risk. So even if you get rid of your tickets, or let's say you dramatically reduce the number of tickets, or you get rid of altogether those things that you'd ordinarily think are high risk. Well, very high risk will always be relative. So in this case, it will always be the top quartile. Okay, now based on the categorization provided earlier on, I was asked to suggest a recommended SLA for issue resolution according to each category. So just so you know, as SLA is service level agreement, this defines the target amount of time within which we would hold ourselves to resolve the issue. So if you say, okay, well, at least 2 weeks or at least 3 weeks. So I made a proposal here, but I don't want to focus on that so much. What I do want to focus on, though, is the linear regression lines that's able to create around the number of hours spent and the number of issues that came in. And this is really valuable because it allows us to sort of forecast how many people we might need on hand to address issues and how many issues we might have generally. So we can start establishing not only targets, but better prepare ourselves for the influx of issues. Okay, so here you can see I was able to estimate the number of people, number of hours, and as for forecasting, here you can see I used the linear regression lines to anticipate what it'll be like next year. Now, there are some serious issues with that forecast being accurate. There could be seasonal issues, economic fluctuations, there could be a business model change, a whole variety of issues. Anyhow, that's my presentation. Hope you enjoyed it.